to the extent that I think good evening Ghana. I'm say akwai.
Me ntimi hu say leaky.
Na ordinary na mo na oye ne ma because
I dey check say nyo no na aboni timu fabricate ade bi no ordinary. Because until say contents no ebe pie from official source.
Okay.
How they be compared there now obi pedal. No who say he was peddling the same thing. And now they be who say leaky. Now say me meti hey me ko fabricate bibi anam the better radio gold say petition on the contents here. How would you cross check say and only the ever system no yet at the crown na enya at the crown. NTS at now there me need say content be leaky. Because the BIM pain. Yesterday, I've got a team now at the report no buy.
Yes.
The only copy, my just 3 copies or so. At the almost authenticated, finally revised one. And one and I'm keep.
I see.
And so no, delegate me. Any such light to me serializing name bit said ye or mukuta document no.
Whenever I say ma PENDREAM TV there or see them yopo.
Says I heard the CJ was parking out of her official residence amidst tears, and I was wondering why suspension warrants leaving her residence when it's not concluded. I thought the writer mixed office with residence. Everything I'm hearing is confusing anyway. But anyway, a few things. When you have been suspended doesn't mean that you've been found guilty. So there's no need to move out of the residence. Secondly, even your office, the person, just because somebody has been asked to act, doesn't mean that the person has to move into the substantive office. You can act from whatever office you have currently. So that is not even really necessary. But everything is so confusing about this whole matter. Because I thought CJ did, it should be, you should expect that if I do this and that, and somebody gets to know, writes a petition against me, I'd have a problem. So I should avoid A, B, C, and D. So as long as I'm avoiding doing A, B, C, and D, I shouldn't have a problem. So everything about this thing is confusing. And the fact that it's the MPP that's crying the loudest is even much more confusing. Young Goza says, Senator, you're too much in this country. May Allah, Almighty Allah, have mercy upon you and protect you and your crew with all your entire family. Peace and happiness, glory, success and blessings. Peace. Shalom. Young Goza, amen. And thank you very much. Nimbo Classical Fear Bob Rice is also joining us. Good morning to you. Clifton Westman is also joining us. Yes, we know the tuning is off. But the in-house internet is off, so the tuning will be off. Only the Facebook is up currently. So please do bear with us and follow us through Facebook. We'll try and fix the matter with the internal internet, and then the tuning will be up so you can monitor the rest of our programming subsequent to the Gold Morning Conversation. Efokobla is also joining us. Good morning. He says, I have a dream about Nancy. ECG, PRO, or better. Trust me, and fingers crossed. They say Nancy will go and work with Kwekbena. Nancy will go and work with Kwekbena. Yeah. Ask Kwekbena. If you see him, say him, Senna is looking for him. Maximum Sata is saying a good morning to the ECG boss. I like his name, that's why I mention it that way. Doesn't mean that I'm actually disrespecting him. I love the name. The name is amazing, an amazing name. He's the ECG boss. His surname is Kwekbena. I was arguing with Nancy the last time. I thought that the name was
Beckman.
Yeah, I thought the name was he's from the north. I still am not convinced with your pronunciation because you haven't proven to me that he's from the Volta region. So I don't have anything on record that shows that he's from the Volta region.
You know why I was confident in saying that's the name? I had a mate in SS.
Okay.
Was called Beckman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maximus Atase, that's what Nancy's bespoke spectacles, they make her look like a multi-millionaire. Kusa for Kwame Paul, Isa Osman says, Isa Osman says, they know what they did. That is why. Robert Adokwao, thank you. Kweku Newton, Kofi Bedu. Kofi Bedu says she must leave the office. Issa was one as my CJ must go. Busi better, the MPP Judiciary Branch. Hey. Idi Mohammed is saying a good morning to us. Noah Kafo, please, the conclusions you've drawn are wrong. The problem is internal, so we are trying to resolve it. It's not about security. No, that's not a problem. Yes. Buzi Better is also joining us saying a good morning to us. Salih Jima, a good morning. Heads of judges under her wing must be investigated. Elizabeth Ford just says CJ must go. Sally says all the judges she appointed to see to all cases or her own case must be investigated. My opinion. You see, the opinion of a judge cannot be I really don't think should be the subject of an investigation. They can be disagreed with at any time. They can be disagreed with at any time. You can always subject it to, at some point, all the decisions that you have a problem with could be subject of a court case. I'm telling you, one day, before a different Supreme Court, everything that they have done under the MPP administration would all come under scrutiny, because that interpretation they give will affect somebody's life. Yeah. The person will go to court and subject that interpretation to further tests, and then that's when. So don't worry. One of those days, this thing. Will conclude.
Anytime they are taking decisions, I ask the question of if they are sure that in their absence as Supreme Court judges or as the Supreme Court and panel, and there is another court sitting in that capacity, they would agree with that decision and agree that whatever ruling they have given would stands. That should be behind, at the back of their mind anytime. I've always said that. And so when you're taking a decision, you know that definitely if there will be a time that this decision could be a subject for further scrutiny. And so you would have to be careful and ask the question of, okay, after taking this decision, if another person is sitting down in this same position, would this decision that we are taking today make sense to them?
Yeah.
Would they agree?
Yes.
Would the decision stand? Should be one of the things they put at it. But
meeting all necessary documentation and vouchers to support the expenses paid from the impress.
Okay.
And then receiving reimbursement for the amount spent, effectively replenishing the impress to its original amounts. Okay. This process ensures that the impress is used properly and accounted for accurately.
Okay, so the $14,
so she
14,000.
Yeah, so she was supposed to justify so that the money can be paid back to, because this is petty cash.
Yes.
That she's taking $14,000 for. So it's quite an interesting. This is a story from the New Republic.
Yeah.
You can get a copy of the paper and read it and read the story for yourself. That's in there. The money's been mentioned. I just mind-boggling. But there's one other thing, Nancy. But the survey I was referring to. Yes.
Global Info Analytics.
Global Info Analysis. Exactly what are they saying?
Just what you pointed out too, that 52% of Ghanaians are in support of the CJ's removal, and they want CJ to go. I just quickly want to pull that. Okay, so let me just read this part to you. A new poll conducted by Global Info Analytics show majority of Ghanaians support the removal of the Chief Justice Gertrude Arabai Saki Tokonu. The poll shows 52% of voters support the removal of the Chief Justice. Only 20% of the voters oppose her removal. 18% were neutral and 10% did not have an opinion. So that's the summary. But when you look at the question they asked, do you support the attempt to remove the Chief Justice from office? So this is party affiliation. So the NPP people, the Global Info Analytics spoke to, 16% of them were in support.
16% in support.
16% of them were in support. 46% of them opposed the decision. 26% of them were neutral about it, and 13% had no opinion.
That's quite interesting. Really?
16% of NPP people.
So you're saying that if you put it all together, so 16% were neutral. Go through the numbers that said they had no opinion, and the other ones.
Okay, so 26% were neutral.
Neutral.
Yeah.
26%.
26%. And 13% had no opinion.
No opinion.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 39% that are indifferent.
Yes.
To whether the CJ stays
Goes or
goes.
not. Yeah.
So essentially, the MPP, the majority of people within the MPP do not really care.
Yeah, that's it.
That's weird. An appointee of the New Patriotic Party. I see.
Yeah. So 46% of them say no, they do not support the idea, and 16% of them think that she should go.
Okay.
Now, the NDC people who were
persons who identify as
sampled,
NDC. Okay.
yes, 83% of them.
Oh, okay. Makes it clear.
83% of them supported the idea of the Chief Justice going.
Okay.
3% of them opposed the idea.
Okay.
7% were neutral, and 7% had no opinion.
7% had no opinion.
Yes. So that is a floating voters.
Okay.
Floating voters. 46% of floating voters were, sampled, were in support of the Chief Justice
Up
going.
to 46%.
Yes, 46%.
Okay.
13 opposed, 26 were neutral, and 15% had no opinion.
The opposition numbers are too low.
Yes.
That's weird. Even within the New Patriotic Party, yes, significant, but still very low. Even among floating voters, you have a lot more people who are urging caution about proceeding in this against. But you see, the interesting thing about it, Nancy, is that if you watch the way the process has been carried out, people say moves to remove the CJ, which is an inaccurate reportage of what is happening. It's not moves to remove the CJ, because you are suggesting that this is calculated by someone to
get her out.
And if that was what the NDC was doing, they wouldn't have followed this process. Do you understand? But I feel that this is about acting on petition. Do you agree with the petition seeking her removal? That's all. Yeah.
So other parties were also sampled.
Okay.
And they put all of them together. 37% of them were in support.
Okay.
9% opposed.
Still very low.
43% neutral, and 11% had no opinion.
I see. What that means is that a significant number of Ghanaians really,
that's why
they
don't really care.
Yeah, remove her, don't remove her.
None of our business.
And I think that should be worrying for the Chief Justice. Yeah. That even though, no matter how they feel about it, they still are not bothered by your removal enough to jump behind you. That should be worrying for you, because that also speaks to the kind of judiciary you've actually led over the period, to the point that people really do not care.
See, they even did the survey based on people's educational background.
Okay.
So when they spoke to JHS,
Junior High School leavers. Okay.
JHS leavers.
Okay.
57% supported the idea of the Chief Justice going.
57%.
17 opposed, 16 were neutral, and 10% had no opinion.
That's weird.
JHS.
The number of people who are indifferent in this matter are higher than the people who are opposed, which is weird.
Then they asked SHS leavers.
Okay.
50% of them were in support of the idea.
Okay.
21% were opposed, 20% were neutral, and 9% had no opinion.
Still 29% indifference.
Then we get to tertiary. 54% supported the idea. 18% opposed. 18% again were neutral, and 10% had no opinion. So that is even when you are looking at it from people's educational background. And there were people who had no education, and 37% of those in that bracket were in support of the idea. 21% of them opposed it, 12% were neutral, and 30% had no opinion at all. So you put everything together, and that is where the conclusion is reached that 52% of Ghanaians are in support of the idea of the Chief Justice going. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's sad. To be very frank, I expected.
Yesterday, General was here, and
I think that question was asked.
He says, "Abiwabi and who
I think there were, and there were specific questions asked of him on this issue, and very interesting. And I think one of the questions that were asked had to do with the processes followed thus far or something. Whether he thinks that the question he was answering was the conduct of the CJ throughout the process.
As rally, because say we need the winning. Now the biggest challenge ebe face yen obia economy no na ye ka ho ase.
Yes.
Na me misu say resetting the institutions I want my no and no be bigger challenge than even the economy.
No.
Because democracy is government by institutions.
Okay.
Inti so bitimi corrupt two institutions no na ema no kwan ma otimi a rule in a dictatorial way to said the Akufo-Addo rule no.
Yeah.
If you want to build them back, said the Bayer institutions no a very restraining the exercise of power in the system, it will take some hard decisions. And one of the challenges.
Okay.
And now institutions so yenim say a week and the executives one more exercise one more power in capricious manner one more dilute or mine no japade. Say institutions jumanka lutu ntimi so. If the same institutions are there in the same shape and form. Now say what they no be ora. No what me recover all the loot. How are you going to do that?
I see.
With the institutions or more facilitating the looting in the first place. So Bia who said there's something wrong in some of the institutions. Now you use constitutional process to reset those institutions. I don't see anything wrong with it.
I see. Mama Shadi, are you not worried, sir? The content of the petition, it got to a point now, a leaky, to the extent that I think, good evening, Ghana. I'm saying, Akwai.
Maybe to me who say a leaky.
Now, or then no one know yet near ma because
I then just say no na boni timo fabricate ade bi no ordinam. Because until say contents no ebe pie from official source.
Okay.
How they be compare there na obi pedal. No one say he was peddling the same thing no. And now they be who say leaky. Na say me meti hay me ko fabricate bibi anam the better radio gold say petition no the contents here. How would you cross check say and only the ever system no yet at the crown na enya at the crown. NTS at now there me need say content be a leaky. Because the BIM pain. Yesterday I've possibly team no at the report no buy.
Yes.
The only copy my just 3 copies or so. At the almost authenticated finally revised one. And Kwana Namikipo.
I see.
And so no. delegate me any such light to me serializing name bit said ye or mukuta document no or year free document no ma in some more can win no cre inti bi o ha o di tisiu amu akoka se enye no cre na we na no cre
now
onam ho no
why not smart out the original.
so even though we kept the copy no ye live by taking lessons from nema bia recommendations na ewo mu no
Okay.
ene e di ye adwuma ena na yetime aba power but se o ma ho kwan eko tese no wa abonten
Yes.
nka semo ebepiepie mu ne abufu ebeba nom ne nema no muntimi nka mbom kura se mo ye mo de ye adwuma ama adruba bia so ntia futu bi wo ha ye no kokoa mu bi wo ho so a ye na abonten
I see.
enu nti no as we sit here there mimi ntimi nyina ho nka se mahu bibi wo good evening Ghana nti eno na ye
And currently
the real content no when officially we've been told say content no ye nteto nkyere obia
but CJ the conduct throughout the process who is saying mama no toko no
me de abrewa obewu ani hu ehu
abro bi won hu
wa obekwa akoka se wu nanan wu na ubewu ubedi kan ja no
wow
enu nti asem wo ye wo court no me mpese me de ma no beben ho ma court no nka na sem se we conduct ti say wa no wa umfa nkote soja hahan ma ma court na meka na sem na emie na efa metu ja se de ye hunu munie what is that sem we buy maka ho asem
Dabi.
nka ho asem
so de ya no akota no aboma ho
beginning no a yanya mai no na me ka se ehia se ye reset e judiciary
okay
ehia se ye reset electoral commission
Okay.
ehia se ye reset they say auditor general honom ne imbobo but eno na me ka bo mu ye say we need institutional reset
and you still stand by and some
I still stand by those
electoral commission so
But once
resetting
ya-
electoral commission
na hwan na kofa asemu ibaye enye me na me kofa baye
Well, so that's the National Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia. A very interesting response to the matter of the CJ's conduct. But let's go over the phone lines and speak to Musa Danko of Global Info Analytics. They did this survey on how Ghanaians feel or felt about the moves that could lead to the removal of the CJ. Thank you very much for your time. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Tenna.
Yes. I hope you're well.
I'm doing very well, thank you.
But first of all, when did you do this survey?
We started the survey on 7th April, and it was ended yesterday.
Oh, so this is new.
It's very new, yes.
Huh. And I'm wondering what made you decide to do this specific. Was it a one or two questions focused on only the matter of the removal of the CJ?
No, we do several polls quietly without public. This is one of the questions we had in the for the polls we conducted. There were, in fact, two questions regarding this removal. Better to publish that is of public interest.
And I'm wondering how many people you talked to over the period on this matter.
1,545.
What were the questions that you put to them?
In fact, we were very clear and we give a bit of information to the voters for them to make an informed. So the first question was, we informed them that there is currently 3 petitions from Ghana and the removal of the Chief Justice. But no evidence of any impropriety has been public yet. So please indicate your level of support for the process to remove the Chief Justice. So we made them understood that there's a process. We haven't seen any evidence yet. Regardless of that, please support to remove them. That was And on that question, 52% said they support without seeing any, and 20% oppose it. 10% did not have an opinion, and 18% were neutral about the question. Now, for those who were neutral or didn't have an opinion or opposed it, we asked that question. We say that if it is established that the Chief Justice has broken the law, please indicate your level of support for her removal. So this question was answered by those who were, or those who opposed it, or those who didn't have an opinion. So having now been given further information, would your position change? On that score, 30% said then they will support the removal. But 35% said regardless, they don't support the removal. And 16% they don't have an opinion, and 19% were neutral again.
Even with the provision of information, you still had people who did not have an opinion and were neutral.
Yes.
And you of that group, you are saying 35% still said no.
No.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter what the CJ has done. Those 35% says it will still not be cause enough to remove her.
Yes.
I see. But I realize from your breakdown, what meaning should we read into this for you? What meaning are you at Global Info Analytics reading into the numbers you are looking at?
No, the process is a legal process. It's not the that we going by opinion. But we wanted the public to have a bite on what is going on, what their views are. In fact, if you the last poll we did ask voters about their view about the IGP after he was removed. And we felt that if the poll had been done in time before the decision was taken, would have seen a fairer view from the voters with regard to his removal or not. And we felt that if we do the same, we may end up in the same situation. But we felt before any decision is taken, let's see what the public think. And that's the reason why we went to do this poll.
And for you, a pollster, is 52% strong enough a backing for those who are undertaking this process?
No, I'm saying that the decision should not be driven by public opinion.
Okay.
This is a legal process.
Okay.
But we want them to know what the public thinks. That is all.
Well, Mr. Dankwa, thank you very much for speaking to us.
It's my pleasure.
That's Mr. Musa Dankwa joining us, Global Info Analytics, having a conversation with us on this. He says, we just want you to know what the public is thinking whilst you are going through the process. And like he said, for majority of Ghanaians and majority of us, we really don't have a lot of information on this. And that's the design of the Constitution. The design of the Constitution is that information is provided as and when necessary, but majority of it is done in camera. But at least 52%, even without any information at all on whatever the issue is. And that is where it is worrying. Because let's say they're saying, oh, we are doing this to this person. What do you think? And the person did not even, without even asking, and I've told you that I don't know why they have decided to do it to the person. So they are saying that we do not know the basis for this. In fact, no information has been provided as to the basis for which this process has been triggered. So the people who have submitted a petition, their reasoning, their arguments, their thinking, all of that we don't know. But we are saying, so any process that will remove the Chief Justice, whether by fair or foul means, once it started, what will be your view on it? What would you think? What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And 52% of people, majority of people just say, yes, remove her. That is in itself is a worrying development. That should even worry the CJ.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.